Welcome to the Opening Bid Podcast. I'm Yahoo Finance Executive Editor Brian Sozzi. Like I always say, this is the podcast that will make you a smarter investor. And of course, this podcast is sponsored by our friends at Vanguard. Joining us now is Klutch Sports CEO, Rich Paul.
Good to see you as well. Thanks for having me.
This is your first time at Milken. What brings you here?
Well, obviously, the opportunity to be educated on everything that's going on in the world, from every aspect possible is why I'm here. I've always been invited. Scheduling has been a little bit troubling, but I'm excited to be here. I'm actually speaking on a panel, so I'm excited for that too. But I would come just to be someone in the crowd, just learning. Honestly, I would.
It is, it's quite the crowd. International investors, a lot of CEOs. Take us through your business. I know I have personally been following your journey the past 15 or 20 years. I guess we're kind of a little bit around the same age, same generation. How big's the business now, and what have you been up to?
Oh, the business has grown tremendously. And when you're in the representation space, obviously that can be capped. And so we've been focused on really growing different verticals. The commercial side of the business is where a ton of growth opportunity is. But still keeping the main thing, our foundation has always been in representation. But now we've evolved that representation, not just players, but representing other companies, other brands. From a brand consulting perspective, we're doing a lot of data and analytical work for companies to help them have a better understanding of their ROIs and things of that nature. So it's been fun. It's been, I never get too high or too low about things, but it's been great. I mean, to see where the company is today, to see us go from just being a basketball-based business to where we are today is a tremendous, tip to from my cap to my team and my staff. I couldn't get here without the special group of people I come to work with every day.
How did you know when to make that pivot?
I never get complacent about anything, and sometimes I think it's not, all times it's not great to sit in your success, and so I've never been one to do so. I've always tried to be one to surround myself with those smarter than me, more capable in a lot of ways of doing other things that I personally could, and then picking the right partners. I've picked my partners at UTA, which has been a tremendous help to us. Also, just people and partners matter when you're trying to build a business, and as you know, it's really hard to scale any business, and then it's definitely really hard to scale a business while maintaining your culture. So we've been able to do that, but every day is an uphill battle. It just is.
It's all a grind.
Yeah,
It's a grind.
But you wouldn't want it no other way.
No,
right?
that's true.
Yeah.
I agree with you.
Yeah.
How did you get here? You have a fascinating life story.
Oh, man.
Not that we could distill your entire life down to a 20-minute
Just 2
podcast,
seconds,
but
right.
Try it. Give it a whirl.
I think I got here by just having an open mind, not really allowing people to put or place limitations on myself, continuing to dream, continuing to be motivated. I think where I come from, obviously there's so much hopelessness that surrounds you, and to be able to persevere through all of that and be where I am today, I think it's just resilience, being a product of my environment, my family, the people that I've been able to come across and work alongside, continuing to want to be educated and learn from others, being inspired by others. And so I think there's been a culmination of all those things that allowed me to get here for sure.
From what I would been able to read about your life and your career, your dad is has been a real inspiration.
Oh yeah, he's someone who I lost at a very young age, but gave me so much of a foundation that allowed me to have just a grand perspective on all things. And so having that foundation to build the house that I'm currently building on I was very lucky, hence my book title, Lucky Me, to have that.
How have you mentioned culture at Klutch Sports.
Yes.
As you've grown so fast, what is that culture and how do you protect it?
I think the way you protect it is, sticking to what we know got us here and why we wanted to and the why of us being in existence. We've always had this mentality of not doing things just from a transaction perspective, but doing things the right way and wanting to to represent the athlete holistically. And that leads into other things. If we have a brand representation, we want to represent that brand the right way. We're never going to do things just from a fiscal perspective. It's not all based on a transaction. You have to continue to lead with integrity, and you have to continue to be a great partner. And so those are things that are non-negotiable in our culture. And then you have to treat others the right way. Inside of our building, around the country, the offices that we have, as well as externally, we want to lead with that. And if you talk to any of these teams that we have clients on or brands that we've worked with, that tends to come back. And so that's how you know you're doing things the right way, when that comes back. And you continue to get business opportunities as well.
How do you take that culture and impart it on the people you represent, the players, the athletes?
Just understanding they are people first. I think oftentimes you look at talent and you think about what they do as talent, and you kind of put that in front of the person. We put their talent behind the person, and we get to know the person. We get to know what's important to them. We get to know how they can actually grow and the things that needs to be said and done and executed at a high level to help them get there. Everyone's different. Everyone's not going to have the same thought process or the same care or the same want of things, but no matter what, we try to tailor make the relationship to fit their silhouette.
We've seen an explosion in player salaries. How is this generation of athletes set up to manage their finances? They seem a little bit in a better shape, but...
Well, the better shape is because they're making more money.
Yeah.
But I think it's all about the discipline is a discipline. I think it's such a slippery slope because the lack there of trust allows them to be miseducated. It also allows them to open the door of their finance being led by sometimes people that don't understand financing at that level. And that's no knock, because it could be a family member, it could be a friend, it could be anyone for that matter. And you have to be able to say no.
Yeah.
Right? It's a tough spot for athletes. They have the toughest in that regard. It's extremely tough for them because the lack of trust, the lack there of trust leads to lack of education, and the lack of education leads to a lack of discipline and infrastructure. And ultimately, you can't save your way to wealth. You just can't. And so, because of that, I think people are placed in positions that, yeah, you may trust them in most things, which is fine, and it's good to have, but capabilities matter, especially when it comes to finance.
we're just fresh off the NFL draft. And I was looking at the signing bonus of some of these players. I'm like,
Yeah.
well, what would you tell this generation? How do they? Some folks they've never seen this type of money by any stretch of the imaginations. What do they do?
I would keep it simple for them, and I would probably tell them, if you make $100, probably only 15 of that 100 is actually of usage for you.
Yeah.
There's taxes that come with it, and then the other part should be probably invested if you can. So for every 100, look at 15 to enjoy, actually. I try to keep it as elementary as I possibly can.
It's awesome. Hang with us. We're going to go off for a quick break.
Okay.
We'll be right back with Opening Bid. All right, welcome back to Opening Bid. Of course, Opening Bid sponsored by our friends over at Vanguard. Having a great conversation here on sports, the outlook for sports. Rich Paul, Klutch Sports CEO. I'm getting ready to have a lot of conversations here about women's sports, the explosion in just attention, contracts. But a lot of folks have told me that this is a growth investment. There's still a lot of risks associated with women's sports.
Yeah.
Do you agree with that?
I do, but I think it's twofold. One, the excitement around women's sports is something that you have to be appreciative of and root for and invest in. I think women's sports has something that allows you to kind of grow with them, right? There's no eagerness to leave right away. You see, that we've seen over the past couple of years, especially in women's basketball, this infectious attention to their game and the storylines and things like that. It's because they stay in existence for so long. You're able to see their ups and their downs, and that just allows you to want to really become a fanatic of it. But there is a lot of risk. I think you see a lot of leagues popping up. I don't know how great they're doing or not doing. I do know the challenges of the WNBA and things that they've been able to overcome and the investments that's been made there and the excitement around there. But like anything, it's going to be risk. I think, and I always ask for them to learn from the mistakes that the men's side of the business have made and try not to make those same mistakes. Try not to substitute growth for, I would say, a consistency in the product, the integrity of the product. And so, from a WNBA perspective, Kathy's doing a great job leading that. But you see the other leagues, and I think they'll have some interest, but there is a risk for sure.
Are media rights the next big deal for women's sports?
I think it's one of them. Yeah, I think it's one of them. But again, where does it actually live? We don't know. I think you have to have a tremendous amount of effort amongst just a number of people to really help them make the right decisions. I think ESPN was one of the early ones in terms of taking that step, right? Giving that platform, really investing in the women's sports. And then now I think you'll start to see brands and media rights partners and things like that come in and invest, which will help grow the game. But we need those stories. We need that competitive nature. We need that support to continue.
I was thinking back ahead of this interview, and I grew up watching on Channel 4 basketball. I still could hear the song with Marv Albert playing that tune in my head. Is it just that sports will be not owned, but dominated by the streaming platforms, Amazon, Netflix? I mean, they all want to get into live programming. And I see what Amazon's doing with football. Is that where all this is headed?
That's tough because I think you still need the linear in the household, but also the way kids watch games today, the way people watch games today, for the most part, it's starting to be, and I don't know the data on this, but I imagine you're watching it as much on your home television as you are on your tablets. And so because of that, you need the streaming platforms, right? And now, how many? There's a lot out there.
There's too many.
Yeah, the way they've chopped it up, sometimes it's kind of hard to get to. And so I think kind of working on those elements of it all. But I think you need a balance of both. There's nothing like sitting at home in front of the TV, watching a game with the family, with a spouse, with friends, etc. But also, for someone who travels as much as I do, being able to still see key games and capture key moments on your phone in real time, that's a benefit that we did not have. That's a luxury that we did not have.
This has to be the most amazing time to do what you do.
Yeah, because you don't miss a lot. Whereas before, you were kind of pigeonholed to certain things. Now, there's a lot accessible for you. As long as you have Wi-Fi, planes, trains, back of driver, back of, car services and things of that nature. So I'm appreciative of it all. I really am.
Are the players in the driver's seat like never before to negotiate deals with whoever they want?
But I always thought that was very misleading. When I talked about player empowerment, it came from a place of educating the player. I think for many years, there was a lack of education, and still now, players aren't as educated as they should be, and then you got some that pretends to be educated more than they actually are. But I think it's just having an understanding of the business and how you should approach things as a player and what's going on around you. Sometimes it can be misleading to where you give up things which we have in this idea of wanting to have ownership and things of that nature. I think that can be a little misleading, but ultimately to understand the business around you and where it's going and how things work. You can never go wrong being in the know while having an understanding of how to star in your role of what that in the know actually is.
Of course, one of your early clients, LeBron James. And I'm know under no illusion you're going to sit here and tell me, yeah, LeBron is retiring. And I get it. So let me ask it this way. Is life after playing in the NBA for LeBron, does it look like a Tom Brady where a little bit of a team ownership, he's still on air? Like, what is his post-life investment portfolio?
I mean, his current life investment portfolio is really strong, so I don't think he has to worry about that. In terms of what he wants to do whenever he decides to stop playing, I think he crosses that bridge when he gets to it. You know, I don't talk to him a ton about it because the thought of him not playing really bothers me because I just enjoy seeing him on the floor so much. But I know at some point it has to come to an end. But I think he'll cross that bridge when he gets to it. That guy loves the game of basketball so much. I think it's going to be extremely hard for him to exist in a world that doesn't involve him playing the game that I know he loves so much.
I'm a competitive guy. Does he want to own a team? Is that his thing?
I mean, he's came out and said it, but at the same time, what does that actually mean, right? You're talking about an industry now in which owning a team but is it a good investment? Is it not a good investment? We don't know. I know it was for those who got in early. Will these teams continue to grow? Will they continue to reach the value that they have? You know, I think what Boston just sold for
$6.1 billion.
Right, and they don't own the arena, right? So that is unbelievable not to own the real estate and for that team to still sell at that level.
They're buying like Kevin McHale's Ghosts.
Right. Matt bought the team in Phoenix for what, $4 billion? I think Rick bought the team in Charlotte for whatever he bought it for. I know what Dan bought the Cavs for and what. I think the real winners have been Mark and Alex, in terms of what they bought the Timberwolves for. I think they made money right away on the buy. If you can get some of those type of situations, then great. But will we see these teams continue to grow? I don't know. I know who don't have enough money for it, me.
Well, you're going to be close.
And I know that, this idea of me wanting to own a team and trying to, get me out of the representation space, that won't happen no time soon. But, I think, look, LeBron has done enough to do whatever he wants to do. And it's always great to have options.
Last one before I let you go. As someone, it's not often you get to see greatness up close and personal. What has made him great? As someone that has literally worked with him, you met him in an airport as a teenager.
I think what has made him great is continuing to, number one, care, love the game, care. I think the way he treats people, those around him, whether it's brand partners, his attention to detail, little things like being prompt, not being on time, being prompt, whether it's his plane or not, he's early, commercial shoots and meetings and things like that. He's coming in with the understanding of this is business, not leading with his ego. I think it's important to understand when to take that jacket off and hang it up. And obviously on the floor, you need that because that brings a bravado like no other. But it's the little detailed things, never being out of shape, continuing to work throughout a year. Whether you put the basketball down, that's one thing. Obviously, you have to give that a break. But from a physicality perspective, never not training, right? And I think that ultimately it's allowed him to do great business, have great business partners, because look, we're at this conference. These people don't need the athlete. They don't have to do business with an athlete. They can be in the business of sports without ever doing business, quote unquote, with the athlete. And just because you're an athlete or a popular person, they don't necessarily grant you anything. How you do things matter. And I think for those that were athletes, accomplished athletes, the Strahans, the Bradys, the LeBrons, the D Wades, You know, people that after the game you've seen do things, you know, whether it's big or small, but just have the opportunity to do things. I think it's personally a testament to who they are as people. And you're starting to see it more and more. And I can identify it right away. And I would encourage the current athlete, no matter how much money you're making playing the game. I say this, there's not enough, meaning it's not enough, right? Okay, if you only want to do that and that's it, then maybe so. But if you aspire to do other things, when I say it's not enough, meaning not that it's not enough that you don't have the ability to buy what you want to buy. It's not enough to be the end-all, be-all to allow you to open up other doors that will then place you in these positions that could become generational. Your money's not enough. You got to be able to lead a different way.
First of all, it was a pleasure to get some time with you.
Pleasure.
Big, long time fan of your career and what you've achieved.
Thank you.
Look forward to
Appreciate
staying
you
in
guys
touch.
for having me.
Thank you so much. And that's it for the latest episode of the Opening Big Podcast, of course, sponsored by our friends at Vanguard. We'll talk to you soon.